Welcome to the Influential Christian Entrepreneur Podcast, where we uncover the inspiring stories and strategies of successful Christian entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of interviewing Jose Escobar, who is an award-winning personal development speaker, 8 times author, and revered business leader who with 2 multi-six-figure ventures, including the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. He's captivated over 29 million people with his talks and has a global clientele of 330 entrepreneurs. With past sales surpassing 30 million, he has also impacted over 500,000 families through his martial arts coaching. Jose is a dedicated husband and father of 5. Discover more at theentrepreneurBookshelf.com. Hello, Jose. How are you doing today? Thank you for being here.
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be on some kind of a platform with you, and I'm just excited to be here. So honored.
Yes, and I'm super excited about having you here because I've known you now for, I don't know, maybe over a year, and even have had the pleasure of meeting you in person when you came down because you're always traveling. So I had the pleasure of meeting you, and one of the things that stuck out when I met you in person, we were in a restaurant and we were talking, and I remember you saying, I'm a man of God. And I didn't follow up on that question because you weren't talking to me, but it made me look a man of God. So that's why I invited you to this podcast, knowing that you are an entrepreneur and you are a Christian. So first of all, on this podcast, I wanted to find out, how did you become a Christian?
So I am a cradle Catholic, right? So when I say cradle Catholic, many have heard the term, but never really asked what that means.
Yeah.
Basically, both of my parents, I think like 4 generations deep, are Catholic, and I kind of grew up in a house where we went to church every Sunday, and it was just what we did. And eventually, I got involved in as an altar boy. I was an altar boy in my church, and then I got involved with helping in the RCIA and various different things like that, where we teach the faith and help people go through their sacraments. And I went through all my sacraments, baptism, first communion, confirmation. And I got married in a church to my wonderful wife, Katie, and gone through the whole thing. So I started in the church for my parents, watching their example. They've been married going on 50 years this December. They'll be married
Wow.
50 years. And I've seen what it is to be a Christian, what it is to live the faith, not just say that you believe, but living by what you believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a whole nother layer to that. So I've seen what it's like to grow up in a household where God is first, and our faith is very, very important to us. And I always wanted that. And ever since I got older, at some point it becomes your responsibility to pursue it and to continue to engage with it. And I've done that. And now it's the foundation to my household as well.
To your household and your family. And
Yep.
were you always like a very well-behaved Christian the whole time? Did you ever fall out of the faith? And so many of us kind of like, yeah, we start in the church, our parents take us there. Then at some point, it's kind of not have anything to do with it. They come back, or has it been consistent throughout your life?
No, it's been consistent in my life forever. Like there's never been a period where I haven't gone to church, right? Or I haven't, practiced my faith. Now, there was an extensive period of about 10 years or so where I was like a wild child, right? Where I kind of like spread my wings in not so positive ways, where I was throwing house parties. I got into many fights and bar fights, and you name it, and I was in trouble. Like I did a couple overnighters in jail due to bar fights and different things like that, house party fights. And so there was a time where I lost my way, where I was flirting with the line of like danger. The good news is that I've always been, as I said, a man of God, to the point where I never went too far across the edge to where I couldn't come back from it, right? And I feel like the Lord always kept me intact to the point where I've learned some tough lessons, and I've had some close calls with death many times. And for whatever reason, the Lord always kept me in a good place. And to this day, I'm healthy, I'm vibrant, I'm on the right track. I've been on the right track for many years now. And but I definitely lost my way a little bit. But I continue to go to church. and I continue to pray, and I continue to do these things. And some people would look at that and say, "Well, that's pretty hypocritical, Jose, for you to be in church and acting like a maniac." But let's keep it real. Like, think about it. How many people go to the gym that are completely out of shape, and then they leave the gym and they go eat McDonald's, right? So
Uh-huh.
gauge it based on that. I always had a desire to be better, but there was a period where I was just weak, right? I was just very weak, and I was just going with the wind wherever the wind would blow, and I learned some valuable lessons, and I'm grateful to say that I'm here, and I'm happy for the tough lessons I learned, and I wouldn't say I would take it back because it made me who I am today, and now I can coach and mentor my kids in a way where I know both sides of the fence, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and they say, and excuse me for not quoting the Bible verse correctly because I'm kind of new to Christianity, but something about you will know Jesus's disciples or the people who follow Jesus by the fruit, by their lives, how they live their lives. And
Yeah.
I can see that that's pretty evident in you because, I mean, although I don't know you, like I'm not your neighbor, but by the things you post on social media, how your family's so united, how you have all your little children, well, and your big child, right? You have your big child and your little children and that family unity. And also how you treat other people because that's that's a big thing, right? You can't say you're a Christian and then treating people like crap. And so you come from, I would say you're kind of like a servant leader in a way because you have that humble that humility about you that makes everybody feel comfortable, but then at the same time they know you're the leader, right? So that is just a fantastic combination right there. Now the premise of the podcast, well, actually, before I get to that, I wanted to ask you more about your business because I was stumbling all over this bio because there's so much to talk about here. It's like, okay, first of all, you're 8 times author. So you've been writing books. How did you manage? Do you write a book every year? How do you do this? You have 8 books out.
Yeah.
I have one of them.
Yeah, so this is the way I view it, right? And everything I've done in business has happened in the last, I don't know, since January 15th of 2022. So I haven't been in business very long. I've been in business for going on 18 months now, right? So
Wow.
all of the books that I co-authored happened between January and probably like 2 months ago was the most recent book that I put out.
Hmm.
And the first book that I wrote from beginning to end was Winning the Day, an entrepreneur's guide to morning, evening routine mastery. And people can check that out at the website. It's winningthedaybook.com. So winningthedaybook.com. That's the one that's a book that I wrote. That's mine. That's, entirely beginning to end my book, right? Then I co-authored a planner called the 90-Day Battle Plan, which is like a planner slash journal that kind of speaks actually to that book, Winning the Day. And it's all about like the bookends of your day, productivity, high performance, having structure to your day, right? Getting the best bang for your buck, productivity. So those two were near and dear to my heart. Then I also co-authored 6 other books. So um, I I could have left it at being a best-selling author with my book Winning the Day, but I said, you know what? Being an 8-time award-winning, best-selling published author just sounds better, right? So I
Sounds pretty
decided
impressive to me.
yeah, so I decided to co-author 6 other books with some influential entrepreneurs, so I can leverage their fancy titles. I can leverage their audiences to get people into my ecosystems because I'm in books with them, and it's worked beautifully. And that's
It
kind of the
has.
strategy, and that's why I'm continuing to do it. And I will write some more books on my own, kind of like Winning the Day. I'll do a couple other books myself, but I love co-authoring just because it gets different parts of who I am out into the world, and it just helps, and it's nice. I like it.
And it brings more people into your ecosystem. That's a
Right,
strategy and it works
right.
for you really well. And so, what about, I know you're also a speaker because here it says that you've captivated over 29 million people. How in the world do you go about doing that in 18 months?
So before, that's not just business. Me being, connecting and speaking in front of so many different people is not just the last 18 months. That was in my career, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
in the bank, I was a branch manager for 2 different banks. I was in the
Mm-hmm.
insurance space for many, many years. I was at
Mm-hmm.
conventions there in front of thousands of people in different groups and different things there. I was also in the property and casualty world. I did a lot of great work for State Farm, Liberty Mutual. So that was like
Mm-hmm.
15 years worth of being
Mm.
right? A lot, all the time. And then from there, I got into the martial arts space. So I was a sales director for a global martial arts company, and they have like fours, conventions every year. And I was in front of a lot of people there all the time. And I was always speaking at different little smaller events as well, and you name it. So that is where collectively over the years, many years, we've gotten to those numbers. But at the end of the day, um, I never really major on the minors. I think numbers are the minor things. I think really it's just a matter of one person at a time, one soul at a time, and creating massive impact and giving value wherever you can, right? Wherever you can. So, yes, I am a speaker. I'm a John Maxwell certified coach, author, and trainer. I did that certification in August of last year. And since I launched my business, Connected Leaders Academy and the Entrepreneurs Bookshelf, I've been speaking on a stage just about every week, whether it's in person or virtually, since January 15th of last year. So I'm always busy. I'm always speaking somewhere in some capacity. I love it.
And you're always traveling. I'm like, wait, how does this guy with 5 kids, um, a business, manage to travel all over the place all the time and make such an amazing impact? So you are an accomplished speaker because you've been speaking for quite a long time, and you are also an accomplished salesperson because that's why you were the director of sales for the. So what do you like more, speaking or selling or sales?
Sales, all day. I think the bread and butter, my passion is sales, right? I love directing people to make a decision that is best for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sales is all about. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about trying to force a product or a service on somebody and trying to get them to say
Mm-hmm.
yes. It's really just educating people and filling a need, right? And the process of that and dealing with personalities and dealing with objections and dealing with all of the things that come with sales is just something that I became masterful at over many years. I think I've been selling for well over 24 years now, and it's just been something that I've always developed. I'm still learning. We never arrive, right? There is no such thing as I've arrived as a master salesperson and I know everything.
Right.
No, like I'm still learning all the time. I'm reading books. I still have mentors. I'm going to events. I'm still watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts on sales right? So
I
there.
know you're a learner. We can tell by all these are all books behind you that you have read. Guys, the shelves extend to the side, and he also keeps like a ton of them on his desk. So he has books everywhere. Did you learn sales from your mom? I remember you told me a story about your mom being like a big salesperson for cosmetic products called Jafra, which was super popular back in the 80s, I think. So do you think you learned some of that from your mom?
Wow, great memory. Yeah, so Jafra Cosmetics, I just learned this the other day that apparently the owner of Jafra was like a fallout person from Mary Kay, right? Mary Kay came first, and then just like anything, even in religion, right? People end up breaking off and doing their own thing, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody left Mary Kay and launched Jafra, and it was they became competitors, right? But with that being said, my mother has been in that business forever, right? At this point, like 40 something years. And since I was like 10 or 11, something like that, I haven't seen her have a job or clean houses anymore. She used to clean 3 to 4 houses a day for many
Mm-hmm.
years. And my dad worked 3 jobs and only came to sleep for 4 hours at home and do it all over again. And it was 4 boys in an apartment in one bedroom. And I have 3 brothers. And it was just, we grew up in that environment where we didn't have much money. But guess what? We never knew it because we had love in the home. We had what we needed, the foundational things, that God was the center of our house. And my mom built this amazing business while having 4 young boys, all in similar age brackets, right?
Mm-hmm.
While cleaning multiple houses, she found a way to get it done. And I learned hard work. I learned perseverance. I learned faith and grit and mental toughness from my mom and my dad. And eventually, my mom blew up Jafra to have a multi six figure, not a multi six figure business on Jafra Cosmetics. And now she has people all over the country that are in her business, some of places where she's never been. And it's just, multi level marketing and residual income at its finest. So, yeah, I did learn a lot from her.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Have you had your mom write a book yet?
No, no, I have not. But my dad actually just wrote a book. He wrote a book because he also, came to this country, and there's some powerful stories of what he did, and he went from like the dishwasher at a restaurant to the busboy to a server to a supervisor to a manager to a district manager to owning a business, owning the restaurants, right? He owned a couple of restaurants, and he did live the American dream as well. So my parents went from like no English, no money, young parents. They were like 17 and 18 with their first kid, and then they have, three more kids and little education, and they ended up having $1 million home and having an American dream, and now they're retired, they're just traveling and doing their thing. But so my dad wrote a book. My mother, I don't know if she will ever write a book. I definitely will nudge her for it, but we'll see.
Oh, that'll be an interesting book. That would, if she ever writes it, let me know. I'd love to read her book. Where are your parents originally from?
Guatemala, Central America. So
Okay, and so they came here.
yeah, my dad came first. He had my two older brothers and my mother in Guatemala still, and my dad was here, building houses and doing construction and working as a busboy as well, or a dishwasher for a while, sending money to my mother, and then eventually my mother got the rights to come to the country. They did it, the proper way, and she came with my two brothers, and then I was born in Washington D.C., and my younger brother was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and that was a wrap, and so we're first generation here in the U.S.
Wow. I love to hear those background stories. And I want a question I've always wanted to ask you is how many books have you read?
Easily 2,500, 2,500 plus. But I read about a book a week. So I
Wow.
think I'm somewhere between like 25, 20 something. So somewhere in that neighborhood. I have a log. I have a journal that I keep of all the books that I've read. Uh,
Uh-huh.
all of the books that you see on this side here are books I've read. Back there, I have books I've read. Back there, I have book behind you. Here behind me, these are just some of the books that are like famous books that I really enjoy.
Uh-huh.
And then these are some rereads that I have. So I have like kind of like organized for the most part. And then all the
Wow.
TBRs, the to be reads are on my desk. So I have all these lists books that I'm ready to read soon. So
So do you read one book at a time? Because I have a problem with picking out two books and reading them simultaneously. And I wouldn't, I really prefer reading. So what's your strategy?
I read five books at a time, right? So I read five books at a time, not literally at the same time. So I start five books per se in different categories. So one might be a spiritual read, another one can be a nuts and bolts business scaling book. Another one is just like a mindset, personal development. Another one
Mm-hmm.
is health and wellness, and another one is relationships. It could be with my spouse or my kids or fatherhood, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I always have like five different books going, and based on whatever I feel I need that day or where my heart's at, I will just pick up that book. So I have five going usually at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm always finishing at least one per week, sometimes two. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not so much about how many books you get through; it's
Mm-hmm.
about how many books get through to you, right? And I have a
Mm-hmm.
whole process of how I highlight and annotate and underline and dog ears in the books, notes in the margins, the marginalia is what they call it. I
Mm-hmm.
create my own index in the front of the book, which is something Tim Ferriss talks about quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of well-read books, right? And people think because I read a book a week, I'm a fast reader. It's actually completely unequivocally not true. I'm actually a very slow reader because A, I just read slow by nature, and B,
Mm-hmm.
because I have a process to where it makes my reading slower because I'm writing, I'm underlining, I'm highlighting, doing all these things that most people don't do. So the retention is way higher. I take notes, and I also commonplace. I do note cards every single night. I take five. I extract five things from my books on a 3x5 index card, and I have a filing system of all these different things, so I can go and pull it for future reference for speaking gigs or podcasts or shows or a training session or a program or a course, you name it. There's a whole process to this
That's the whole process. And did you come up with that process yourself? Your own
thing.
process?
No, I think so. Commonplacing is something back from the Stoic days, right? Marcus
Mm-hmm.
Aurelius, Ronald Reagan used to do it all the time. A lot of really ultra successful people are commonplacers. John Maxwell wrote almost, I think, over 90 books now, and he uses the art of filing and commonplacing. So I learned that from them. Actually, Ryan Holiday was the one who brought it to my awareness, who learned that from Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that process there, and then the annotating and highlighting and all that kind of stuff like that. I also picked up from John Maxwell. I learned from Tim Ferriss. I learned from Ryan Holiday and many other people that have done that type of thing. And then I created my own system. So as I learned all of these productivity hacks and high performance hacks and reading strategies, morning, evening routine things from like people like Hal Elrod, right? Morning Miracle, and Robin Sharma, the 5 a.m. Club. I took all of these different pieces because I've been a lifelong learner. I've always been learning for a long time. All of those things collectively is what led to me writing my own books on these topics, which is what I teach now.
Oh, wow. So I could just read your book again and I have like 2,500 books in one book.
That's the key. That's the whole concept of reading a book, right? Because you're downloading years of experience and years of different places
Mhm.
you find this information. You're just condensing years of value into like a week or a couple days, or in some cases, a couple hours, depending on how fast you read.
Yeah, that's amazing. So then, how does it, so I know you have a community of entrepreneurs. To talk to us about that and about your coaching. Is your coaching a one-on-one? How do people work with you?
Yeah, so I have a couple of moving parts. I'm not going to go into every single income stream. I have 8 different things that I do for revenue, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the two bread and butter of what I do is the Connected Leaders Academy. So the
Mm-hmm.
Connected Leaders Academy is a growing tribe, a global tribe, a community of entrepreneurs globally, right? So we're currently sitting at 334 members. We're in 42 states across the US, and we're in 17 international countries. And my goal is just looking for the best of the best entrepreneurs that are making things happen in the world, creating impact, and not just a specific type of entrepreneur, right? Because, authors tend to hang out with who? Authors, right? Coaches hang out with coaches, and, real estate investors go to real estate investing circles. So what I decided to do was let me find the best of the best in all different entrepreneurial backgrounds, put them all under one roof, and help them collaborate, learn, grow, and create opportunity. And that's kind of what I've done there. That's a recurring revenue. We're looking to get to 1 million members in 100 countries, and we have a lot of big, lofty goals, a lot of things we're working on there. So stay tuned there. In terms of the other moving parts, is my book projects and my speaking. That's the other big thing, because whenever I write books, that gets me on more stages. Whenever I get on more stages, that gets me in front of more people, which ultimately feeds all the other income streams. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. I also have a mastermind. I launched a mastermind not too long ago, which is blowing up right now. It's not even public information. Nobody really knows about the mastermind, but we've already enrolled 24 people into that thing. Much more high ticket. We're moving pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of different moving parts in business. I host live events as well. I'm also involved in merchandise. I have my own merchandise like most people, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about where business is right now. And again, for those who don't know this, which is pretty much most people who are probably listening to this podcast, in business for myself, I went from having no business at all, right? In January of 2022, January 15th, 2022, I had no business at all. I went from having no business at all to having two businesses with 8 income streams, now doing 7 figures in 15 months, right? And most people look at that and say, "Oh, wow, that's so fast," or "That's a lot of money," or maybe both, right? But for me, it's not so much the money or the speed. It's about how I did it, right? So I did it with no website, zero paid ads, zero marketing budget, zero funnels or automation of any kind, zero email marketing campaigns or email lists. It was all 100% organic word of mouth growth. And that's
Mm-hmm.
been my strategy. That's been my kind of my thing. And that's what I'm doubling down on now, to teach other people in my mastermind on how to do just that, right? But we're doing a lot of cool things. God has been great in business and in terms of my life, personally and professionally. And as they say, and it's 100% true, all the honor and glory goes to our Lord Jesus Christ for the things that He does for us.
Amazing what God is doing through you. So the premise of the podcast is we've always been told to never mix business and faith because it's bad for business. You'll turn people off. It's rude to talk about, your faith in a business setting. What do you think about that? And and if you incorporate faith into your business, how do you do it?
You should never incorporate faith in business. I say baloney, right? I say baloney. I don't buy it. I've never bought into that idea. People say, "Oh, when you're in a public setting, don't talk about faith or politics." I don't. I don't follow that stuff. That's what people say, right? That's what the committee of they say, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, listen, if my heart feels called to talk about something, I'm going to talk about it. I'm a very direct, blunt dude, respectfully, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
very respectful when it comes to what I say and how I say it. I want to be courteous of people's feelings and thoughts. If you don't want to speak about something, I will bring it up. If I want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But if you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. We don't have to talk about it, right? But I'm not going to not talk about it because I might offend somebody, right? Like that's
Mhm.
not where I'm at. I'm not into that, offending people thing. Like I'm just like, if it's on my heart and it feels like it's the right thing to say or talk about or do, then that's what you're going to hear out of my mouth, right? Respectfully.
Mhm.
In terms of business and God, well, there is no business without God. So they're actually interconnected, right? Like there's 10 life domains. Michael Hyatt talks about it in his book, Your Best Year Ever. I talk about it all the time, right? Faith directly affects your marriage, right? Your marriage directly affects your parenting. Your parenting directly affects your business. Your business is directly affecting your finances. And your health is directly connected to all of these things, right? And I can
Mhm.
keep going. So there is no like, this is more important than that, or this is irrelevant, or there is no such thing as combining these two. They're absolutely unequivocally interconnected, and I involve God in everything I do and in my business as well.
So you involve God in every. So do you explicitly talk about your faith? Like when do you ever bring up the subject to people directly, or do you wait? You just let them know what your faith is and leave that door open for them to approach you if they feel like it. Has that ever come up in a business context for you where you
Yeah,
have actually ministered to someone?
sure. I do it all the time, actually, and it's crazy because I do it. It's funny because I do it in the most weirdest places. I have actually been ministering to people at bars, right? All the time. Like I carry. I'm Catholic, right? So I carry this thing called the miraculous medal, which is our Blessed Mother, Virgin Mary, right? And it's like a special thing that's blessed. And I have a bunch of them that I like a big packet of them, right? I always wear them. And there's been many, I can't even tell you how many bars I've been at because I love, like enjoying cold beer within reason, right? I don't do anything crazy, but I enjoy it when I'm on vacation or business trips or you name it, primarily business trips. And I'm by myself or with a couple people and I'm hanging out and I see somebody sitting by themselves. I'll start talking to them because I naturally like to talk to people. And we end up talking about God. And then I end up doing a prayer with them, and I hand them my necklace, my chain, and I say, keep this. And you have no idea how many people I've spoken to that have left the faith, used to be Catholic and are no longer Catholic, used to be Christian or no longer Christian, or just like numb to faith. And even though they believe in something, they're just not sure what to believe in. And I've
Mhm.
had some powerful conversations, and some people who reached out to me eventually on social media saying, "Hey, man, I ended up proposing and getting married in the church because of our conversation that we had at the bar that day." Or, "Hey, by the way, I'm back now in the faith, and I'm praying again because of you." Things like that. You just never know. And when I hear that, I'm like, man, these like informal, random conversations do matter. But to address your question, is I don't necessarily have a system on how I incorporate God into my business. I just
Mhm.
I'm a freestyle guy. Like I don't like
Mm.
first things. I don't like to have a specific thing unless it's like morning, evening routine. There's structure to that.
Uh-huh.
But outside of that, I'm a free spirit in terms of general like how I do things. So
Mhm.
here, I don't necessarily have meetings in a Connected Leaders Academy or a morning, evening routine mastery program where I'm like, all right, guys, listen, before I get started, we're going to do a prayer. I don't necessarily do that, right? Because, not everybody's there for faith, right? But I do
Mhm.
also make it very clear that, hey, I am Catholic, I am Christian, I do pray every day. I do read the Bible. I do pray the rosary. I do pray with my family. I do go to mass and church every Sunday. I'm very
Mhm.
well. People know that about me, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid to talk about it too. So if somebody brings it up, I'll talk about it and we'll go in on it, right?
Mhm.
Many times where I've had one-on-one coaching calls or virtual coffees, and you know how many times these calls have gone in the direction of faith, and I happily go there and I'll
Yeah.
have conversations. And there's been many times where I'm on a coaching call with somebody and somehow God comes up, and I always bridge the subject on purpose because I want to see where their heart is there, right? And if they want to and they're ready, willing, and able to discuss it, we'll talk about it. Because a lot of the problems that we have in our lives are God-sized problems.
Mhm.
Right? That hole that we have inside of us that we're trying to fill with alcohol or drugs or pornography or overworking or spending money or accumulating wealth or all these things that we're trying to fill inside of us, right? Or buying nice things. The hole is a God-sized hole, as Matthew Kelly would say. It's not a anything else hole. Like if you can fill that hole and you can put God at the highest level in your life and really have a deep connection and relationship with the Lord, then everything else is just like not that important outside of your
Hmm.
immediate family and certain things of that nature. So, yeah, I'm not afraid to talk about it. I always talk about it. I just don't necessarily like make it a
Have
platform, you know. But
right. You just when you feel inspired,
yes,
when
yes,
the Holy Spirit goes in there and the conversation just turns, you just follow it naturally.
you got it.
Everybody has their own style and their depending on their personality. I think for you, when you look at, for example, your social media and your personal brand in general, and how your family life, that really shows a Christian, not to say that other people don't have family, but that really just shows, what a Christian man is supposed to be like. I guess the biblical definition of manhood, like, you're the head of the household, you have your wife, you have your children. And I mean, you are a wonderful example, Jose. I'm thinking that maybe someday you should start coaching young people, young men, as
You
part
know,
of your ministry.
it's funny you say that. Before I go into really quick what I'm about to tell you, I have something that I do here. Not many people know this, but I'll share it with you here,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's relevant, right? I don't really
Mm-hmm.
openly, but I have this thing called a Bible in a year, right? It's a Bible in a
Mm-hmm.
year notebook. It's 365 days, and you basically go in here, and it has color coded all the different parts of the Bible, right? And you listen to a podcast, and then I take notes on the podcast, and you read. It's basically you go through the entire Bible in a year, and there's a podcast that goes with it. So you just listen auditorily on the podcast, and it reads a certain part of the Bible that's in here and color coded, and then you take notes on what you're reading. And then the priest who's doing this whole thing is actually um, he actually does like a breakdown to explain, right? Because we can read the Bible and be like, okay, what the heck did I just read? You know how many times that happens all the time. Then you just have somebody who knows what they're talking about do a little bit of explaining, and that's kind of how it helps. It kind of brings it to life, right? A little bit, right? So this is my Bible here, which I read every single morning in my morning evening routine. It's
Mm-hmm.
called the Spiritual Warfare Bible,
Mm-hmm.
because yes, believe it or not, life really comes down to spiritual warfare. You know, a lot of people think it's me versus the world, it's me versus my competitor, it's me versus this or that, and sometimes they think it's me versus me. It's actually spiritual warfare. It's even deeper than that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's really what it's all about, and I make sure I dress up accordingly. And this is here Ephesians 6, putting on the full armor of God, right? I have it
Yeah.
on my desk. It's very important that we dress up, suited up for war every single day, because the devil never sleeps, right? And people say, I believe in God. Well, guess what? So does the devil. Believing
Yeah.
not enough. Believing in God is not enough. You gotta put some action behind it. And anyways, I'm getting off topic. So to go back to what you were saying about uh oh
Young men.
yeah, young men, I actually started a challenge maybe 3 years ago, something like that. It was called the Conquered Will. And it was the Conquered Will. It's like 75 Hard, because you might know I've done 75 Hard 4 times.
Yeah.
It's a great program. And when I did this program and I got in massive shape, I got mentally tough, and it was amazing. But it was missing a spiritual component to it. And I said, this could I can create my own challenge, my own program, and add a spiritual component to it. So I created this program called the Conquered Will. And the Conquered Will is a Catholic men's challenge for men specifically, right? And Christians are Catholics, and Catholics are Christians. So it's it's the same essentially. It's just so I created a thing called it's called the Conquered Will, a Catholic men's challenge, and I had about 12 men who took it on with me. One of them is Raul Marin, which you might know from the
Yeah.
Academy. Jeff Bonilla did it. Marco Carrington did it. A couple other folks that you might know, but they all got in and they did it with me, and they loved it. And it incorporates, like, going to church and reading scripture and praying every day and doing all these other things, including having a planner and having a morning routine, and also the fitness piece and the diet piece and all these other components. So there's 15 different things, and that's a whole thing that I'm going to relaunch in 2024, to really go after men in the Christian men in the faith, right? Because there's so many weak men out there. It's insane. And I feel called to make a bigger impact in the world, right, for men, because I think men need a wake up call, and I
Oh
truly,
yeah.
really believe that, and I want to be at the forefront of that. And so I'm going to revamp the Conquered Will in 2024, and not necessarily go after youth, like young men, but young men are included and invited, right? They're invited.
Yeah.
really after men in general, because I think there's a lot of households that don't have real men in them, right? And there's a lot of parenting that needs to happen from men as well, and they're not around to do that job,
Mm-mm,
right?
mm-mm.
And
And even if they are around, they're not present.
yes, and I can keep going. I mean, the list goes on. Yeah, I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, but my I feel called to make an impact for the kingdom, not just for me and my business and my family, but for the afterlife, right? What we're
That's
really here for, right?
leave a
Because this is
legacy.
all just like a prequel, right? This is all just a test for the afterlife, for the eternity.
Hmm.
And I'm after souls. I love the concept of that. I love the concept of fighting to for something much more greater than me and my family.
Than you, and leave a legacy as well and impact God's kingdom.
Right.
And when you said that, I thought of that saying that says, weak men make hard times. And as a culture, we've really weakened the position of men. In the past, I just started noticing it only a few years ago, but and I don't think it and the enemy it's been on purpose, of course, but you know, with this whole thing about what they call it toxic masculinity and all of this stuff, you know, it started with some men who are masculine have toxic traits, but then eventually they kept on saying it, and it just turned into being a man is toxic. You know, that's the way I saw it anyway. And I think me having a 17-year-old son, I don't like that, what, you know, the culture is out there saying. So we as Christians need to be the counterculture
Yeah.
and really put our foot down and stop sitting down and shutting up and doing what we're called to do. There is a cost to discipleship, and it entails risk.
Yeah.
Because once I started talking about my faith, you know, I'm a new Christian, but still, I started talking about my faith. I got some hate. You know, I got some hate, and I got some sideway looks, internet sideway looks like, ooh, must stop engaging with this person because clearly she has lost her mind. They forget that I was on the other side where they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I am just so happy that men like you are taking charge, or putting on the full armor of God, you know, with the truth, which is the word of God, and standing up and saying that, and not worrying about hurting people's feelings, because it doesn't matter what you say, you're always going to hurt someone's feelings. The only thing you can do is say it in the most loving way that you can. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's fantastic. So I've gone through got all of your ventures. So is there something new that you have coming up, Jose? Anything new? Or speaking
Well,
somewhere else? Are you going to China next? Where are you going?
yeah, I just spoke in Romania, so I became an international speaker, which was awesome. Romania, beautiful country, and I've never been to Europe. This was the first time, and that was fantastic. I'll be in Canada very soon, then Guatemala, and I'm doing some other things out there. But in terms of speaking, yeah, I'm all over. Like you know, like I'll be in Texas, San Antonio, Texas this weekend for Daniel Gomez at Sticker Shock Speaking Academy. So I'll be there this weekend speaking there, and then I'll be in Cherry Hill, New Jersey for Get Busy with Izzy with Marilyn Morales. I'll be speaking there, and also I'm a lead sponsor there. I'll be speaking at in a conference with Dr. Oliver T. Reed. It's called the He-Men Conference, 300 men, right? 300 men for the sole purpose of what we're talking about here, right?
Mhm.
The importance of that. So I'll be speaking there, and I'm excited about that. That's the end of September, and then I'll be at the BLN Mastermind in Orlando, Florida. I'll be there with JR Springer, and that'll be an awesome event there as well. And the list goes on and on. So I'm always going to be somewhere because again, for me, it's about getting in front of as many people as possible, right? Creating as much impact as possible. And part of my goal is to, as much as somebody might not want to see or hear Connected Leaders Academy, it's going to be impossible because I'm going to be everywhere. Right?
And
If
I believe you.
if I'm not at an event, I'm going to sponsor that event. If I'm not sponsoring that event, I'm probably going to be at the event or both, right? Because I want the movement. It's a movement, right? It's a movement, and it's not just for me. It's not just for my family. It's for the people who are in it, to position people to win, and that's really what it's all about: positioning people to win, to create inroads and new opportunities and traction and value. And ROI, and you name it. Because at the end of the day, um, everything and anything I do at the end of the day all goes back to God. Goes back to why we do what we do. And it's just so fitting to be on this podcast because that is exactly why I do what I do. Now, do I scream it from the rooftops every day when I'm running my day-to-day business? Not necessarily. But if you ask just about anybody who's had a virtual coffee with me, they will tell you Jose talks about God all the time because that is the bottom line. That's why I do what I do, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, next things for me is I'm going to be speaking in many different areas, and you'll see me either sponsoring or speaking or both at numerous different places. We have a mastermind that's about to become public information in the next, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks, which is going to be exciting in a whole new direction of things that are happening there. And then also we have, anyways, there's just a lot of things happening. People can just tune into my Facebook. If you're on Facebook, check out the @ symbol JAESCO25, JAESCO25. And with that handle, you can find me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. But where I live primarily is Facebook. And anything and everything I'm doing or up to or is around the corner I'm alluding to, it's all on Facebook. That's where I'm at.
I'll make sure to put your link on the show notes so that people can find you. He is extremely active on Facebook. That's where his community lives, everything. And I'll put the link in there so that you guys can find him. You personify the influential Christian entrepreneur because you are a man of influence. You're a Christian and you're an entrepreneur. So, I think you're the perfect example because you are talking to so many people and in so many places. I feel like you need to put a map or a schedule of where you are on any particular week because you're all over the place. So it is amazing. For anybody listening to this podcast, I would highly recommend that you check him out on Facebook, but you can also check out his website, which is the entrepreneursbookshelf.com. Is there another link that you want to send people to?
Yes, if you want a signed, personalized copy of my book, which I highly recommend you read, it's a life-changing book, and this is winningthedaybook.com. So www.winningthedaybook.com. Just put the word book at the end of the title, so winningthedaybook.com. You can get it there. It's actually cheaper if you get it there than from Amazon, and you get a signed, personalized copy from me directly. Also, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, connectedleadersacademy.com will be up and running. And now
you're going to have a website for it?
Now that I've hit the 7 figures, and I wanted to do that on purpose organically before I did any kind of tech, over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to have a website, connectedleadersacademy.com. There's going to be funnels, automation. There's going to be leads, Facebook ads, email marketing campaigns, affiliate links. I mean, the whole works. So stay tuned as we continue to scale and grow and do some awesome things.
Amazing. That's how you're going to get to the million people with
Yes.
getting out a little bit out of the organic view one-on-one and be able to scale. Fantastic. So you guys heard it. The man built a 7-figure business without any tech. I can testify to, I can say that is true because I saw it happen. So what a better testimonial than that? It's true. Everything he's saying is true, guys. And with that, I'm going to leave you guys. We appreciate you listening to us every week here on Tuesdays. If you are a Christian CEO or executive seeking to authentically integrate your faith and professional brand on LinkedIn to inspire others, further God's kingdom, and leave a legacy, let's connect. My email is hello@francineSinclair.com, or you can find me on my website, francineSinclair.com. I want to thank you so much, Jose, for being here today. Thank you, everybody. See you again next week for another episode of The Influential Christian Entrepreneur. Take care.